Hi all! Everything in my video is pulled from the public domain, and I am using them under the Fair Use, Fair Dealings guidelines. Everything I say is my own opinion. You should look into this information for yourselves, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Morning, everybody. Okay, I'm starting off with these pictures of the stained glass bathtubs. I don't think you can actually bathe in them, but I just thought they were so freaking gorgeous. It's like a work of art. Could you imagine? I would take a bath in that. All right, we have a lot to cover as usual. Let's go. I'm starting off with this email that came to me from a subscriber saying that children were dressing up from a character of a book. And look what this kid did. Tell me that that is not one of the cutest kids you have ever seen. I think that's adorable. Love it. All right, moving on. Next up, Prince Michael of Kent, who had last in 2013 visited the reservists, and he went and witnessed training and presented the annual awards. Looking great. All right, next up, Sarah Ferguson again. First, this article came out saying she'll do whatever it takes to support Charles and Camilla. Of course, she's living with Andrew in a grace and favor home. Then this article came out saying that Harry and Meghan were getting support from her. Let me tell you, she's in the middle of a mess. She's living with Andrew. She's having issues. She has to be very careful where she steps. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to make William and Catherine mad. You don't want to make Charles and Camilla mad, but yet you're walking the tightrope because you never know when you might need the other side. Yeah, way to go, Fergie. Just a quick note, this came out that King Charles and Queen Consort Camilla will do their first state visit to France from the 26th to the 29th of March. They'll be in Paris. They're going to go to the Palace of Versailles. How exciting. Next up, there was more investitures at Windsor Castle by Princess Anne. I love this woman, Sophia Jama. She put this up and she said she got her MBE and she went with her father, her eldest brother, and her daughter. I love that jacket she's wearing. Also, this picture was put up by Daniel Hardiman, who also was at the investiture ceremony in Windsor. Love it. All right, next up, it came out that Charles was going to do an interview before the coronation with the BBC to give an idea of what his future was going to be for the monarchy, how he wanted to streamline it, save money, all the wonderful things he wanted to do. But then it came out people were going to be questioning him about Frogmore and the eviction, which just leads to my point that Harry and Meghan leaked the information. So at this point, it looks like he's backing out of the interview. I can't blame him. I agree with Royally Blunt. He doesn't need to explain it in a live interview. He can do a pre-coronation speech that they can air online. I agree. That's what I think he should do as well. Next up, William and Catherine went to Pippa Middleton's daughter's christening. Baby Rose was christened. How lovely. All right, moving on. All right, I got this email again from a subscriber who said, I thought the Goring Hotel looked familiar. That's where Catherine stayed the night before her wedding and where she left from to go to Westminster. No wonder Meghan chose it. Yep. That's not the only time she tried to copy her either. All right, the chat with Harry on Saturday, the one that's not really a chat, that's pre-scripted and you're not allowed to interact or tape it or anything. People are up in arms over this Gabor guy because apparently he has said some really inappropriate things about the Israeli state. He called the Israelis terrorists and defended Palestine's constant rocket attacks against Israel. I wonder where this guy was chosen. And then, of course, I just look at this picture and I realize, let's not forget that Harry didn't apologize for that. As a matter of fact, he never took responsibility for it. He claimed that was William's fault for not stopping him. Oof. All right, I hate to do it, but we got to get back into the whole eviction thing from Frogmore. People are just like he had it coming. He did have it coming. But first of all, it wasn't an eviction. They were not evicted. They simply did not have their lease renewed, okay? What people are forgetting is it is a grace and favor home. So what that means is Charles owns it, and you can stay there as part of a contract for work. So if you work for the Royals, you get to, as part of the package. Or if you've done something for the Crown. They were leasing the home, they were making payments, and their lease was up, and Charles decided not to renew the lease. That's his right. Charles said it was like ripping off a Band-Aid. I think Charles is very sad at the loss of his son. I think Charles has finally come to the realization that after the Oprah interview and the Me You Can't See and the Netflix docuseries and the book and the podcast, I think he's finally come to realize that Harry is on a path to try to destroy the monarchy. While this is a personal matter, he is now the monarch and he has to act a certain way. And when you look at some of these pictures, like when I go back to this picture, just think this was done with Meghan making fun of the curtsy before the Queen died. And then she curtsied like this in front of the coffin, knowing that just a few weeks later, that Netflix documentary was going to come out. And what if the Queen had not died and had seen all of that? They did all that knowing the Queen might see it. So yeah, I completely back Charles in his decision. Enough's enough. Now, the loss of the house, it could end his Counselor of State position. It doesn't matter because he was never going to be Counselor of State. This could also affect his case for protection when he's in the UK. Have you guys noticed that everything he says is about Meghan? All of his fights and arguments have to do with Meghan. When you look at it all, Harry is demanding respect for his wife. Everybody should respect and protect his wife. But he attacked his father, his brother, his father's wife, his stepmother, his brother's wife, his sister-in-law, all the people that had cared for him and stood up for him and covered for him. He threw them all to the wolves. Here's another interview Harry's going to be giving about his family. I told you, they said they were going to stop, but they can't. They are trashing the institution that gave them the life that they're living off of. They're trashing the royal family, and they want the tax and domicile benefits of Frogmore. Nobody even lives in the house. They simply pay on it. And there's a housing crisis. How does it look to keep that big, huge house sitting empty? They're never in it. I mean, according to Neil Sean, they're looking into the legality of what Charles did because they said that house was given to them by the Queen. It was gifted. It was as part of the package of the working royals. They stepped back. Then they had to pay for the house on a lease. The lease is not being renewed. It's done. They don't have a legal leg to stand on. And by the way, they've also said that Harry and Meghan can stay at Buckingham Palace or Kensington Palace under the King's invitation. So they're not allowed on royal property. There you go. Now, if you look online on the royal website, the information about Frogmore Cottage is there. And it says from April 1st, from 2020, Frogmore Cottage became Harry and Meghan's private UK residence subject to an annual license to occupy, which is a lease. It's a property rental agreement, and the license was renewed on March 31st of 2022. So, and the rent was paid. So there you go. They simply don't wish to renew for another year. They don't have like a 70-year lease like Andrew does on the Royal Lodge. This was a year-to-year lease. So I start to get upset when I see articles like this because obviously they didn't do any research. If they had, they would know that there is no long-term lease. It was a year-to-year. It has expired. They're not being evicted. They're simply not having their lease removed or, renewed. And no, they don't get the refurbishment money back. It's over. Now we know that they not only screwed it up for themselves, they've now screwed it up for their kids. Charles has no intention of giving titles to those children. Why should he? He's only seen them once. They have no connection to the family. They're meaningless. So they're not going to get any titles. And the word out is that King Charles wrote both children a heartfelt letter letting them know he loves them and they are always welcome. Grandpa's home is their home, and so is Uncle William's. So when the children get older, obviously those letters won't be given to Harry and Meghan because they won't pass them on. But when the children are older, they will be given those letters, and then they can make a choice what they want to do. Now, CJ Hawkins, you guys know, she's a blogger. I've been following her for years. She's fabulous. She put up a blog that said, could Harry ever become a working royal again? And the thought is, he can't live without the royal connection. So Meghan was only into him because she thought he was loaded. If they ever divorced and he went home, would the royal family take him back? That's a very good question. I don't know if the family would take him back. Do I think the public would take him back? No, I don't. Read her blog. You will not be sorry. All right, next up, I got another letter from one of my subscribers saying that they think that Harry and Meghan are going to be making money, are going to be refunded money from the 2-point-something million that they put into the house. No, they will not be getting that money. Let me explain why. So what happened was this. When the house was being renovated, but Harry and Meghan wanted to add things to the renovations, which cost $3.2 million over and above the regular renovations that were being done. And they agreed, the royal family agreed to go over budget. It's like a perk for the job. But they did it knowing that they were going to be leaving. And so everybody was like, nope, you know what? We did the extra stuff for you, but now you don't want to stay. You have to repay the overage. That's why they're not going to get that money back. Now, the money came out of a grant, and that's the money given to the Queen by the government. That pays the salaries of the royal household, official travels, and upkeep of the palaces. But Harry and Meghan went above and beyond the renovations for more specific things that they wanted. Now, when all the uproar happened, because all of this happened because Harry and Meghan had agreed to be working royal members and then they stepped back, Harry is the one that stepped up and said, we're going to repay the cost of this. And by doing that, they drew the line and saw themselves as being free from out of any obligations that they had to the, UK public. Word out is that Harry was going to make payments and they were going to pay it over 11 years, but they didn't really have the money for it. And so Charles paid it, and Harry was supposed to make payments to Charles, but then didn't. There you go. In the end, any way you look at this, I just want to say Harry and Meghan got paid for Netflix, Oprah, Random House, CBS. I mean, they've made a ton of money. Go buy your own house. So once again, you guys know I love Australian news, and I love Kinsey Schofield. You guys really need to hear what she had to say about this. Listen up.
Yeah, for more, we're joined by royal commentator Kinsey Schofield. Good morning to you. Well, what happened behind the scenes with the royals in the lead up to this eviction story?
That's right, Matt. And Nat, I feel like we talk about this every week now. Harry and Meghan unhappy again. But we're finding out that, King Charles said that this was like ripping off a Band-Aid. He actually was so frustrated and disappointed by the release of Spare and, the lead up with the Netflix series that the king and the palace decided that they needed to disconnect from Harry and Meghan a little bit more. I would call this consequences, wouldn't you? And so the king did tell them the day after the release of Spare that, they needed to get the rest of their belongings out of Frogmore Cottage. The king is trying to cut ties with any sort of drama leading up to the coronation because he really wants everything to be clean, calm, and perfect for his big day on May the 6th.
Well, they're not living there at the moment. They're in the US, so...
Yeah, look, it's easy to bag them and pile on, isn't it? And I must admit, the more I read of the book, the more I disliked him.
And now everybody's asking, how does this parallel with Wallis Simpson and the king, right? Well, she had an opinion on that too. Listen to this.
Where does this all end? Because we keep going round in circles in regards to hearing from Harry. King Charles is trying to tie up loose ends, but where does it all end?
Well, I think if you look at the Wallace and Edwards saga, you saw that the royal family really cut them off, went their separate ways, and pretended like they didn't exist anymore. And I wonder if that's what the royal family is doing in this instance. I think the royal family's move right now is to pretend like they don't exist.
Yeah, and Meghan and Harry's currency is talking about the life that they had. So once that's over, it'd be interesting to see.
Kinsey, thank you so much for
Now,
joining us.
before we get back into the whole Harry-Meghan thing and what happened the other night, people were talking about the fact that she was wearing that $62,000 pinky ring with, the diamond. And, for a while there, she got so much criticism, she stopped wearing it. And remember that she wore it to the 9/11 memorial. And it come to find out, it came from the people that had been responsible for the 9/11 attacks. Yeah. She, I guess she figures, what the hell, I'll just wear it everywhere now. Now, people were paying a lot of attention to what happened the other night. Remember, we talked about this. This was an obvious setup. And people are saying that you can see the stress and the strain and, with the body language, that this was overkill. So the body language guy said that this is a projection of quote unquote nonverbal shrugging, the smiling widely, the laughing in the face of the news, but it looks very much like a performance and it's overkill. The grins are not authentic. Yeah, we already knew that. And I keep thinking about the fact that Backgrid took those photos because Backgrid also took these photos. The dinner, the private dinner in New York and when Eugenie came to visit and, at Trooping the Color. And yeah, they just called Backgrid. Now, we have heard some rumors that something was done to Meghan's face and she was keeping low. And when you look at these pictures, that looks to me like injection sites. I mean, okay, look at these earlier photos of Meghan's jawline. You see how it's very round. You don't have the lines going down the face, more structured look. You guys see what I'm seeing? She's got a round lower jaw. Now look at these new pictures again. Do you guys get what I'm saying? She's had work done. That's what they do in Hollywood. Look at the lines on the side of her face with her smile. That's new. Absolutely. I think she had some fat injected somewhere. Now, interestingly enough, there was some talk that Harry got hair implants. Remember that? Well, let's look at a comparison of him now. Here's a picture of the back of his head at the Diana statue unveiling. And here he is getting out of the car. I know these aren't the clearest, but they came off of the video. Here he is walking in. What do you guys think? Do you think obviously he can't have the whole thing just suddenly covered up, but do you think he had a little work done? Because I'm thinking, yeah, he did. And speaking of hair, I want to read a poem sent to me. The ginger-haired prince was pondering his life with 2 invisible children and a narcissistic wife. He told his brother, I'm so glad I'm the spare. I'm not trapped in the castle and I still have my hair. His brother just smiled and said, here's the thing. You may have more hair, but I'm the next king. Love it. All right, you guys, you know what I want. Make those comments, leave them below, and make them good. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell to be notified of future uploads. Don't forget to go up into the description box. You'll find the link for my Twitter, my Getter, my Rumble, my email, my Patreon, and my P.O. box in case there's something you need to mail. If you donated money through my coffee bund or through the thanks button, thank you so much. And as always, you guys, have a great day.